Hi, hello everyone, it's me again, Mama Mariel, and welcome to my channel. So for this video, we're going to discuss all about graphing a hyperbola. And in graphing a hyperbola, we have here two equations. First is x minus h squared over a squared minus y minus k squared over b squared is equal to 1. And the second one is y minus k squared over a squared minus x minus h squared over b squared. So this graphing a hyperbola is for grade 11 pre-calculus. Okay? So ang tawag sa equations natin is the standard form of the hyperbola. So ito yung standard form, itong dalawa na to, no? And mayroon tayong mga conditions na dapat alam natin in graphing a hyperbola. Like for example, first condition is that if the y term has the minus sign, then the hyperbola will open left and right. Kapag daw yung y term, yung may minus sign, ayan. Take a look at this. Nauna si x, and then minus, si y term yung may minus sign. Meaning to say, ang ating hyperbola is opens left and right. Okay? Then, ang center natin, sa parabola, ang vertex natin is h and k. Dito naman sa hyperbola, center lang natin si h and k. Ito, dito natin kukuhain si center. Yan, h and k, h and k. Enable for us to identify the foci, we are going to use the Pythagorean theorem, which is c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared. Meron tayong formula for our vertices and foci, and later on, ituturo ko sa inyo kung paano kayo mag-graph ng hyperbola even without memorizing the formula for vertices and foci. So, ito lang yung gagamitin natin later on sa pag-graph ng hyperbola. Pero, syempre, i-check natin siya using the formulas. So, ang formula ng ating left and right hyperbola is h and plus and minus a and k. And sa foci naman is h, positive and negative c, and k. Next, tingnan nyo naman itong standard form natin dito sa kabila. We have y minus k squared over a squared minus x minus h squared over b squared is equal to 1. Sabi dito, if the x term has the minus sign, then the hyperbola will open upward and downward. So, take a look at this. Sino ba ang may minus sign? Si x. Si y yung nauna, and si x naman yung may minus sign. Ito yung minus sign natin, no? So, our parabola opens upward and downward. Okay, take a look at this. Ang center niya is always HK. Yun yung similarities nila. We have center, H and K. And then the foci, makukuha din natin siya using the Pythagorean theorem, which is c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared. And ang formula ng vertices and foci natin is dito kay opens upward and downward is sa vertices is h and k, positive and negative a, and sa foci naman is h and k, positive and negative c, or plus and minus. So yun yung pinaka-formula natin dito naman kay upward and downward. So ano yung differences nila? Kapag si y yung may minus sign, ito yung minus sign natin, then our hyperbola opens left and right. The next one, kapag naman si x yung may minus sign, ang hyperbola natin opens upward and downward. Okay? And sa formula nila, magkaiba sila ng formula ha. Upward and downward, meron tayong formula for vertices and foci. So, pwede natin siyang hindi gamitin later on. Pero syempre, i-check natin kung tama ba yung makukuha nating mga coordinates. Okay? So, take a look at this figure. This is an example of the left and right hyperbola. Ito siya, left and right hyperbola. So, ang pinaka-center natin is itong gitna, wherein doon nag-intersect ang ating asymptotes. Ito yung tinatawag na asymptotes. Itong dalawang line intersect at the center. Okay? And then, ang vertex natin or vertices, since dalawa yung curve natin, we have left and right, dito naman natin makukuha yung vertices. Ayan. And of course, ang focus natin, di ba, ang focus is always nasa loob ng mga curves. Sa parabola, ganun din, di ba? So, we have, ang focus natin is nandito and nandito. And the representation of this is A, and ang ating focus ay C. So, yung A natin is para ma-identify natin yung vertices ng ating hyperbola, and yung C naman is kay focus, okay? And take a look at this another figure. This is an example of upward and downward hyperbola. We have upward and downward hyperbola. So, si A, dito natin malalaman yung measurement ni vertices natin. We have 2 vertices. And C naman yung ating focus. Dito yung focus natin. Tama? Okay, so take a look at our first example. We have x squared over 64 minus y squared over 25. Since ang equation na gagamitin natin dyan is x minus h squared over a squared minus y minus k squared over b squared, the first thing to do is to identify if our parabola is opens left and right or opens upward and downward. Ang conditions natin kanina, kapag si y yung may minus sign, take a look at this, si y yung nasa second, and si y yung merong minus sign. We therefore conclude that our hyperbola opens left and right. Okay, very good. Y opens left and right ang ating hyperbola. Meaning to say, pag ganito siya, left and right. Alright? Then, the next step is to find the center. Ang representation ng center natin is, sa conditions na diniscuss ko kanina is H and K, right? And since wala ditong H and K, di ba? So, what would be our center? Kapag walang H and K sa given, our center would be 0 and 0. Since wala si H and wala si K dito. So, 0, 0 lang yung magiging center natin. Next thing to do is to find A and B. Sila kasi yung mag-identify kung paano natin i-graph ang ating hyperbola. So, we are going to find A. Since sa given equation, we have a squared and b squared. So, our a squared will be, ang a squared natin is etong 64. Tama? And then, ang ating b squared is si 25. Ang hinahanap lang naman natin is a and b. Tama? So, what are we going to do is to extract square root. So, we're going to square it out. We have square root of a squared is equal to square root of 64. So, we cancel it out. Then, natira na lang si a. And the square root of 64 is 8. So, yan na yung a natin. Next thing to do is to find b. Since ang ating b ay may square, we're going to put square root again. Extract square root. Cancel. Then, b is equal to square root of 25 is 5. So, ayan na yung A and B natin. Now, we're going to find our foci. Bakit foci ang tawag ni ma'am instead of focus? Kasi dalawa yung focus natin, ano? So, foci siya. Plural form ni focus is foci. So, what are we going to use in able for us to find our foci is the Pythagorean theorem, which is the c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared. Alright? Since wala naman tayong c squared and siya nga yung hahanapin natin, si c, then ang a squared natin is 64. So, we have 64 plus ang ating b squared. Ito is 25. Ayan. And then c squared is equal to 64 plus 25 is 89. And then next is to extract square root. Since kailangan nating i-cancel si 2, enable for us to find c. And then, cancel. C is equal to square root of 89. If you're going to solve it in your calculator, we have 9.43. Alright? And we are now ready to graph our hyperbola. So, ituturok sa inyo kung paano kayo mas madaling makakapag-graph using the center, using A, B, and C. So, remember, I've told you already na dapat marunong tayong mag-plots sa Cartesian coordinate plane, no? And the first thing to do is to plot the center, which is, ang center natin is 0, 0. So, we have 0, 0 as our center. So, nandyan yung center natin. And next thing to do is to plot A. Since ang A natin is nandito siya palagi, di ba? A and B. So, ang A natin is nasa X. Okay? Nasa X coordinate. So, titingnan nyo ngayon kung nasan yung X coordinate. Diba ito yung x coordinate natin? Right? So, dito tayo mag-start from the center. We are going to count 8 units to the left and right. So, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So, nandito siya. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. After that, what are we going to do? Is to plot B. Since take a look at this, ang B natin is always nandito. And ang B natin is nasa Y. Ito siya, Y. And then, ang Y naman natin sa Cartesian coordinate plane is this line. Tama? So, we are going to move 5 units upward and downward from the center. So, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Since ang ating B ay 5. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, yan na yung ating magiging box. O, maglalagay tayo ng box. So, what are we going to do is to draw the asymptotes. When we say asymptote, it is the line that passes through the center. Or, yung intersection point nila is yung pinaka-center. So, drawing tayo ng asymptotes. So, yan na yung asymptote natin, ano? And next thing to do is to draw our curve. Since we have opens left and right, so dito nyo siya i-drawing. Remember, hindi siya pwedeng mag-touch kay asymptote. So, ganito lang siya. So, yan na yung ating hyperbola. Okay, remember, hindi pwedeng mag-touch ang ating asymptote sa ating hyperbola or yung dun sa ating curve. Okay? The next thing to do is i-plot naman natin yung foci. Yung foci natin, no? So, we have C. Doon naman natin i-determine kung alin yung magiging foci natin. From the center, 9.43 units to the left and to the right. So, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.43. So, I guess nandito siya. And we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.43. So, nandito siya. So, yan na yung magiging foci natin. And then, we're going to put its coordinate. So, we have the center, 0 and 0. And we have our vertices. Ayan, yung vertices natin. The vertex 1 is negative 8 and 0. Second vertex will be at 8 and 0. We have our foci, 9.43 and 0. And focus 2 is negative 9.43 and 0. Okay? So, now tingnan natin kung tama ba siya sa formula. If tama ba yung nakuha natin na coordinates nila using the formula. So, we have the formula for the vertices. Vertices opens left and right, H plus and minus A and K. And sa foci naman is H plus and minus C and K. Sa center natin, kukuhain si H and K. Since ang center natin is always HK, so we have 0 plus our A is 8. And our K is 0. So, we have 8 and 0. The other one is negative 8 and 0. Since positive and negative siya. Take a look at this. We have vertex 1, 8 and 0. Checked. Negative 8 and 0. Check. Next thing to do is the foci. We have 0 as our H. Positive and negative 9.43. And ang ating K ay 0. So, we have 9.43 and 0. The other one is negative 9.43 and 0. So, take a look at this. We have 9.43 and 0. Check. Negative 9.43 and 0. Check. So, ganun lang kasimple mag-graph ng hyperbola. Okay, so take a look at this another example. We have y minus 2 squared over 16 minus x plus 1 squared over 9. Remember, our equation will be y minus k squared over a squared minus x minus h squared over b squared is equal to 1. Okay? So, meaning to say, ito yung ating a and b. Same lang din siya kagaya nung sa kanina. Always nandito si a squared, and nandito naman si b squared. Okay? Ito lang yung nagkakaiba. Yung example natin kanina, si x yung nandito. Ngayon naman is si y. Okay? So, the first thing to do, or the first step, is to find the center. How are we going to find the center? Kanina yung center natin is 0, 0, no? Kasi wala tayong h and k. Remember, ang h natin, ang representation niya is x. And ang k naman natin, ang representation niya is y. Since we're going to find the center, which is h and k, so ang h natin is x. So dito natin siya kukuhain. So we have 1. Pero we are going to equate it to 0. It will become negative 1. So we have negative 1. Mag-change tayo ng sign, no? Kasi equate natin siya sa 0. Ang ating k naman is negative 2 and it will become positive 2. Kasi equate pa natin siya to 0. Okay? So the next step is to get a, b, and c. How are we going to get a? Since ang ating a squared is ito, and b squared is ito. So, kunin natin yung ating a squared. We have 16 as our a squared. And ang hinahanap lang naman natin is a. So, what are we going to do is tatanggalin natin si squared. How? We are going to extract square root. Ayan. And then cancel. So, natira na lang si a. And square root of 16 is equal to 4. So, ayan, nakuha na natin si a as 4. Next thing to do is to get b. So, ang ating b squared is 9. So, we have 9. And then, ang hahanapin lang naman natin is b. So, extract square root again. Cancel. Then, b is equal to square root of 9 is 3. So, nakuha na natin si b. The next thing to do is to get c. What formula are we going to use to get c? We have the Pythagorean theorem. So, we have c squared is equal to a squared plus b squared. Okay? Since ang ating a squared is 16 plus b squared natin is 9. So, we have 16 plus 9 is 25. And since silang naman yung hahanapin natin, so we're going to extract square root again. And then cancel it out. So, c is equal to square root of 25 is 5. So, nahanap na natin si c. Remember, si a, b, and c is gagamitin natin on graphing a hyperbola, even without memorizing the formula of the vertices and the foci. Pero later on, i-check pa rin natin siya kung tama ba yung coordinates na makukuha natin kapag ginamit natin yung formula ng vertices and foci. Okay, so now we are ready to graph our hyperbola. Okay, so the first thing to do is to graph the center. Since we have negative 1 and positive 2, so ang ating x will be negative 1, so dito siya, negative 1. And positive 2. So, nandito yung ating center. Negative 1 and positive 2. Tama? The next thing to do is to graph our vertices. Since sa letter H, dun natin madidetermine yung ating vertices. How? We have 4 units, upward and downward. Since ang ating hyperbola is opens upward and downward. So, and of course, take a look at this. Yung ating A is nasa y-axis. Remember, ang ating y-axis is ito, kaya upward and downward. So, we have 4 units upward, 1, 2, 3, 4. So, nandito siya. 4 units downward. So, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Nandito siya. Okay? The next thing to do is to graph B. Since ang ating B ay 3 and enable for us to draw a box, so we have 3 units to the left and right from the center. So, 1, 2, 3. And 1, 2, and 3. And now we are going to draw a box enable for us to graph the asymptotes. Okay, so we have, remember, hindi talaga always perfect yung graphing, ano. And I preferred it like this, yung ako mismo, yung actual mismo, kasi para relate din yung ibang mga students, okay? And the next thing to do is to draw the asymptotes, since ang ating asymptotes is yung line that passes through the center. So, ito na yung ating asymptotes. It passes through the center. Okay? Next thing to do is to draw a curve. Since ang ating hyperbola opens upward and downward, meaning to say, ang curve natin is nandito. Tama? So, padaanin natin sa vertex. Ito yung vertex 1. And remember, hindi siya pwedeng mag-touch kay asymptotes. And the vertex 2, we have. And now, we are ready to graph our foci. Since sa letter C, dito natin malalaman yung ating foci. From the center, we're going to move 5 units since ang ating C is 5 units. From the center, upward and downward yung ating hyperbola. So, 5 units from the center, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, nandito yung ating focus 1. And from the center, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1. So we have 2 foci and 2 vertices. Remember, ang foci natin is always nasa loob ng ating curve. Okay? So we have upward and downward. Okay? The next thing to do is to get its coordinates. So remember, ang ating center, we have automatic negative 1 and 2. Ito na yung center natin, no? And then, kuhain naman natin yung vertex 1. Vertex 1 will be at negative 1 and negative 2. Negative 1 and negative 2 since nandito siya. And ang atin namang vertex 2, ito yung vertex 2, dito na lang natin ilagay since hindi siya kasya dito. Vertex 2 will be at negative 1 and positive 6. So our foci, we have our foci 1 at negative 1 and negative 3. Foci 2, negative 1 and positive 7. So let us now check if tama ba yung ating coordinates, itong coordinates na to, using our formula for vertices and foci. So ang formula natin for vertices, h and k plus and minus a. So, ang ating h is negative 1. We have negative 1. And ang ating k is 2 plus and minus. A natin is 4. So, we have vertex 1, negative 1, 2 plus 4. Paghiwalayin lang natin. We have negative 1 and 6. Ayan yung vertex 1 natin. Vertex 2, we have negative 1 and 2 minus 4. Pinaghiwalayin natin yung positive and negative 4. So, we have vertex 2 at negative 1 and negative 2. Okay. So, let us check. We have our vertex 1, negative 1 and 6. And vertex 2 at negative 1 and negative 2. Check. So, nahanap natin yung vertices even without this formula. Tama? Using only the value of A. Okay? Next is to check our foci. So, ang formula ng ating foci is h and k plus and minus c. So, we have our h, negative 1, and our k will be 2 plus c is 5. So, we have our foci 1 or focus 1 is negative 1 and 2 plus 5, negative 1 and 7. So, ang atin namang focus 2, negative 1 and 2 minus 5. So, ang ating focus 2 is at negative 1 and 2 minus 5 is negative 3. So, we have focus 2 as negative 1 and negative 3. So, nakasulat dito is focus 1. So, nandito yung focus 2. It doesn't matter kasi we have 2 foci and 2 vertices. Our center, the asymptotes, and the curve of our hyperbola, which is opens upward and downward. So, I guess that would be all. I hope you have learned something from this video. And if you do, please subscribe, like, comment, and share. And kapag may tanong kayo, just feel free to comment it down below and I'm going to answer it as long as I can. Thank you so much everyone for watching. God bless us all.